Hello and welcome to Foreign Dispatches, the program that takes you around the world in 25 minutes. I'm Layo Olarinde. On the program this week, the war in Gaza continues with residents under intense shelling as they seek shelter. Volunteers from the October 7 carnage in Israel find help in dealing with their trauma. Plus, despite the war, the AFCON qualification for Sudan brings joy to the Sudanese people. Palestinians continue to flee for their lives under the intense bombardment from Israel. This particular family, in our first report of the program, seeks shelter in the ruins of Gaza City House after fleeing Beth Lahia.
Sitting among the rubble in Gaza City, the Ghanem family huddled around a shared pot of food after having fled Beit Lahia under Israeli bombardment. Said Ghanem, his wife Shadia, their 7 children and a grandchild sought refuge in a destroyed house with no roof or walls.
We came from the north crawling. It's hard for me to explain what I mean by crawling. There was bombardment over our heads. Israelis surrounded us from here and there, and our children got scared. I came after dinner and found my wife and children in the street. When I found them in the street, and we spent a night there, we went looking for a place to stay, but did not find a refuge. So we came to this place, cleaned it from the rubble, and as you can see, there is no roof or walls. The place is destroyed.
For the past month, Israeli troops have moved tens of thousands of people from areas in the north of Gaza Strip as they have sought to destroy Hamas forces, the military says, have been regrouping around the towns of Jabalia, Beit Lahia and Beit Lahun. With no income or consistent aid, Said says the family depends on handouts and soup kitchens. Their days are consumed with gathering wood, securing water, and searching for food.
This is our suffering. You know, there is no money. Where can we get money? Where can we get income in this situation as war? Nothing is coming in or out. This is our state. We spend our time gathering wooden sticks, securing water, sometimes filtered water and sometimes salty water for laundry and washing. We spend all our time suffering.
Despite the hardships, he's holding on to hope.
God willing, we will return to our homes and to our families to see them. As for our needs, if the war continues, we need blankets, sheets, a place to take refuge, and tarps, as it will start raining. Our children would drown in the rain if we stayed like this. God willing, we will go back to our homes, and hopefully our homes would have remained intact.
Israel invaded the Gaza Strip last year after Hamas led an assault on communities in southern Israel, killing around 1,200 people, according to Israeli authorities, and abducting more than 250 as hostages. Since then, the Israeli campaign has killed more than 43,500 people, according to Gaza health authorities, and destroyed much of the enclave's infrastructure, forcing most of the 2.3 million population to move several times. Back in Khan Yunis, Gaza, this father of 4 clambers up a pile of rubble in southern Gaza, searching for clothes, shoes, anything he could sell to raise cash more than a year since Israel started its bombardment. Muin Abodei delved under blocks and brushed away piles of concrete dust at the site of one airstrike in the wrecked city of Khan Yunis. His plan is to sell what he found to buy flour.
I come and search through the rubble of the house for children's clothes and clothes for my family. Whatever I find, I take, and if there's excess, I give to the displaced families from Gaza and Rafah. If food and drinks were available, believe me, I would give these clothes to charity. But the struggles we're going through means we have to sell our clothes to eat and drink.
Widespread shortages and months of grinding war have generated a trade in old clothing, much of it salvaged from the homes of people who have died in the conflict. At one makeshift market, shoes, shirts, sweaters and sneakers were laid out on dusty blankets. A girl tried on a single worn-out boot which could come in handy this winter if she can afford it in Gaza's ruined economy.
We came here from the north with no clothing on us apart from what we had on. The seasons have changed from summer to winter and we need clothing. Many people left Rafah. It's natural, they need clothing to keep warm. The situation is very tough, so they come here and buy clothing with good prices.
Israel's military campaign since Hamas' October 7, 2023 attack has devastated the enclave, leaving an estimated 42 million tons of debris piled where houses, mosques, schools and shops used to stand. In April this year, the United Nations estimated it would take 14 years to dispose of the wreckage. The UN official overseeing the problem says the cleanup would cost at least $1.2 billion. More than 128,000 buildings have been destroyed or severely or moderately damaged in Gaza as a result of the conflict, the UN says. Underneath all of that are seams of mangled clothes.
A volunteer-run program in Cairo is offering Gazan children in Egypt educational and mental health support. These are children that have been traumatized by the war in Gaza. Afad Al-Zaytun programs say they are trying to help the children recover emotionally.
Young Gazan children who endured the trauma of war find solace in this after-school community program in Cairo, Egypt. Afad Al-Zaytun, Arabic for Grandchildren of Olives, offers educational, mental health and cultural activities to help Gazan children residing in Cairo rebuild their lives. Founded by Egyptian-Canadian Isra Ali, the volunteer-run initiative provides educational and creative programs for over 330 children aged from 6 to 17.
Afad Al-Zaytun is an initiative I started to help children emotionally recover from the trauma of war. It's also because they haven't been able to attend school since the war on Gaza began. There's an educational aspect and a recovery aspect in this, and with both, they will grow with us. Hopefully, their emotional and physical health will improve while also learning.
The initiative offers academic assistance, including lessons in Arabic, English, German, and math, alongside activities such as graphic design, journalism, photography, and embroidery. Since launching in May, the initiative, now in its second phase, has drawn widespread community support.
At the beginning, within the first 48 hours, 2,000 people registered to volunteer, as we are a non-profit initiative, and so everyone here works as a volunteer without salaries. teachers, emotional health specialists, and people who prepare the curriculums.
Volunteers donating their time, material, and expertise says it's productive use of time to foster a nurturing environment.
Sitting at home was very annoying for me because in Gaza, I used to spend most of my time either at the club or at school. When I came here to Afad Al Zaytun, I felt like I could finally use part of my time productively and stop thinking about other things. It made a big difference for me mentally. Even my family noticed that I am getting back to my old self because I became a very different person because of the war.
I became a very different person بعد الحرب يعني.
I teach them embroidery because it's part of our heritage. Embroidery is one of the traditions that the occupation is trying to erase, but we refuse to let that happen. I spoke to Isra and we agreed that this tradition and love for embroidery must be instilled in children's hearts. This is our heritage, and no matter how far we are displaced or how far we go from our homeland, our traditions stay with us and represent our identity.
As many as 100,000 Gazans had crossed into Egypt during the war between Israel and Hamas, where they lacked the papers to enroll their children in schools, open businesses or bank accounts, travel or access health insurance.
In spite of the ongoing civil war in Sudan, the country has qualified for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations AFCON. The Northeast African nations secured qualification after their goalless draw with Group F winners Angola. Now, it's a much-needed respite for citizens who have been suffering from violence for over 18 months, especially citizens in the diaspora.
Sudanese fans waving flags, cheering and lighting up the sky with fireworks on the streets of Libya's Benghazi, where the team had been playing due to the ongoing war in Sudan. The national team qualified for Africa Cup of Nations after a goalless draw against Angola, which saw them finish second in their group.
Today, I'm excited, extremely happy that we qualified for the African Cup despite the circumstances that Sudan is going through. I mean, we are very, very happy.
Sudan needed 1 point in order to qualify from their group, which they achieved after drawing with already qualified Angola.
We say 1,000 congratulations to our Sudanese team. And despite the harshness of the war, thank God we qualified for the next round. We say the best is yet to come. And greetings to all the Sudanese team. And from here, we salute them and say to them, 1,000 congratulations.
At the Sudanese consul's house in Benghazi, the national team players also celebrate. Coach James Appiah says the competition had been really difficult because of the war.
Since we started the competition, it's been really difficult because of the war in Sudan. So I decided that since there is no league as well in Sudan, I need to make sure I pick some players from Hilal and Merrick. So it's been really difficult because our home matches are being played either in Libya, Mauritania, South Sudan.
As citizens jubilate in Libya, back home in Port Sudan, a sports shop owner is making more sales as a result of the football matches.
Whenever there is a match for the national team, sales increase. The t-shirts are not enough for the demand. We ask God for progress for the national team and for lifting people's spirits. People are extremely disheartened, and that's why the team have greatly uplifted our morale and made us forget the war.
Sudan has been locked in a brutal civil war with the army and the Rapid Support Forces RSF, a paramilitary group that has been trying to seize control of the country from its army being led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. The country won AFCON when they hosted the tournament in 1970, but have advanced beyond the group stage of the competition only once and have qualified for just 3 of the most recent 24 editions of the tournament. Morocco will host the next one, which is scheduled to begin on December the 21st, 2025 and run until January 18, 2026. Sudan joins over 20 other African countries at the tournament.
When Foreign Dispatches returns, we meet Omar Nok, an Egyptian adventurer who traveled over 200 days to Tokyo, Japan. Please join us again. Volunteers who recovered hundreds of bodies on that deadly October 7, 2023 from the ill-fated Nova Festival grounds are trying to cope with the trauma of that day. They're doing this through vocal therapy in Nes Harim, Israel.
Israeli volunteers who were tasked with collecting hundreds of bodies in the immediate aftermath of the October 7 terror attack are taking part in a therapeutic session to relieve trauma. Volunteers at Zaka Search and Rescue non-profit organization stepped forward in the hours after the Hamas terror attack in 2023 to recover bodies and body parts of those who lost their lives in the attack that killed 1,200 people. Now, more than a year on, many of those who are sifting through the harrowing aftermath in homes, communities and areas ravaged by the Palestinian terrorists are grappling with the trauma that has remained a lasting scar.
Nobody prepared us for an incident, for a tragedy like October 7th, when we went in and we saw our brothers and sisters and its babies and older people that were slaughtered and they were burned, raped, and we felt very bad.
47-year-old volunteer Simcha Graineman, who was one of the first in the devastating scene of cars and bodies strewn along a road stretching east of Gaza, connecting southern Israeli communities. Graineman loaded the truck he was driving, which is normally used to carry supplies, piling up 72 bodies collected from the road.
The shock that you see for hours and hours and hours, think about it, 5.5 hours, 72 bodies, and this is nothing compared to what we had the rest of the night. The whole night we were able to bring close to 600 bodies to the morgue in Shura. It's hours and hours and hours of dealing in one day, not even a full day, to be able to bring those bodies. Took 2.5 weeks to clear all the bodies of the citizens from every kibbutz, every house. It took days and days to collect all the remains.
Even for volunteers who've been at scenes of attacks and natural disasters, the scope of October 7 was nothing they had ever seen. To address the psychological toll, Zaka has initiated comprehensive support programs to help its team process the trauma. Therapies range from group and individual counseling to vocal therapies through shouting and singing. Fared Atzman Meshulam is a medical psychologist who leads Zaka's Resilience Center, which opened several months ago to help teams cope with mental health.
Many of them are feeling sad after the October 7th, and it's hard for them to feel happy. I think that most of us in Israel now are it's very hard to feel happy now. But in that moment when they screamed and brought out all the pain inside, they are saying that they felt something like a light was opened. So
after several months in the program, and despite initial feelings of shame, Lando says his participation has helped his recovery.
I was ashamed. I thought that I'm above it and nothing happened to me, but the organization, they came to me and they told me, Yossi, let's try to see if you need any help, because everyone needs the help. And I saw they were right.
The October 7 terror attack, which Israeli officials describe as the worst in the country's history, has left deep scars across communities. Palestinian terrorists who stormed Israeli border communities and rave parties on October 7, 2023, killed at least 1,200 people and kidnapped over 250 people, mostly civilians.
Japan is seeing a record boom in tourism, but one recent visitor travels more than the circumference of the earth to get there, using boats, trains, camels, and even hitchhiking. Let's meet Omar Nok in this next report.
I'm Omar, I'm 30 years old, and having started my travel journey from Cairo, after 274 days on the road without flying, I made it to my finish line, Tokyo.
After 274 days of overland travel, an Egyptian adventurer reaches Japan. Using boats, trains, camels, and even hitchhiking, modern-day adventurer Omar Nok became a social media celebrity, attracting more than 750,000 Instagram followers as he documented his circuitous 46,239-kilometer routes from Egypt across a dozen countries without once boarding a plane.
I first decided to go from Egypt without flying, and the finish line would be in Tokyo. And I would take anything other than a flight. So it could be train, bus, hitchhiking a lot. Some people would give me rides. Took a camel once, took a horse once, twice actually, a horse. Was on back on a motorcycle as well. So just the rule was anything without flying, and the purpose of it was just to see as much as possible of the continent of Asia, going from one end to the other.
For Nok, Japan represented the furthest he could travel in Asia without getting a plane. He arrived by ferry in the southwestern city of Fukuoka last month, and then meandered his way to Tokyo on November 7, 274 days after leaving home. By comparison, a direct flight from Cairo to Tokyo takes about 12 hours. The veteran traveler previously logged lengthy trips through Europe and the Americas, but nothing like this. The first day was the hardest, he says, when his father dropped him off at Red Sea port of Safaga to board a cargo boat for Saudi Arabia.
The day one was the hardest part. Just taking that first step. For me, it was a leap into the unknown, especially because of the countries I was planning to go through. I don't know much of them. There's not much information about traveling in them. Not many tourists go there. You're Iran, Afghanistan, Central Asia overall. So in that part, it was difficult, the first step. But once I got that first step, afterwards, you're in the flow, you're in the motion. Hitchhiked to Mecca and finally arrived at El Kaaba. What a day.
On his trek, he hitchhiked to Islam's holy city of Mecca, sandboarded the dunes of Iran, broke down in the Tajikistan mountains in a purple Dodge Challenger driven by another adventurer, and crossed parts of Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, riding horses and camels.
Sometimes I would camp, sometimes hitchhiking, so all that things. I am a budget traveler, like eating food, street food and so on, sleeping at hostels. I think in Nagoya I was with 25 other people. I think it was 26 total in the room. The budget, I think so far, on average, has been in the mid-20s US dollars per day. Assalamu alaikum.
Through it all, Nok said he never felt in danger because generous strangers looked out for him wherever he found himself.
I've done trips before in Latin America and in Europe and North America, but I think what stands out really the most on this journey has been related to people and hospitality of people. Let's say, I think it started also first day in Saudi Arabia. I didn't have a place to sleep. It was 10 at night or something, and a local, just by asking me a couple of questions, invited me to stay at his place for a couple of nights. Wow. There we go. Which team do you support? Orange? Orange. Orange. Orange.
That message resounds among his online fans as a welcome spark of hope at a time of war and political strife in much of the world.
And that's it on the program today. Remember, our top stories are never far away. You can always catch them on channelstv.com. Thank you so much for watching the program. I'm Layo Olarinde. Bye for now.